Okay, welcome, Bryce. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so I'm interested in hearing a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Bryce. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. As of right now, I'm 22 and I help install wellness programs mostly into like schools and governments
Mhm.
to help with employee mental health and dietitians for them and their families. And yeah, I've been an entrepreneur, I guess, for about 7+ years. I had my own Madden YouTube channel way back in the day, but that didn't really work out how I wanted it to. So started doing a lot of different things since then.
Cool, that's awesome. Yeah, can you tell me more about these wellness programs?
Yeah. So what we essentially do is a lot of companies now do have wellness programs a lot since they're hybrid. A lot of places are hybrid and or just remote. So a lot of people really want to know that their companies or employers like them essentially and are looking out for them. So what we do is we talk to a lot of different companies, talking to mostly HR reps and professionals, going in, seeing what not necessarily problems, but what hurdles they might need help with in the hiring process or maybe what their staff is looking for. And so we figure out if they want mental health coaches, if they want to do better with exercise or possibly eating right, if they want their families involved and things of that nature. And so we go in and we talk to them and we offer a completely virtual service from there, setting up with like US telemedicine as well, US Health Center, and their type of coaches. So yeah, pretty much what we do.
Makes sense. Yeah, have you had any memorable experiences so far? Any specific clients?
Um, it's always memorable the first one. So we really did start in 2023, in the beginning of 2023.
Mhm.
So my biggest one has been a municipality in New Jersey. It's really kicked off well. We've had hundreds of employees that have really come out and said that they really enjoyed the program. So that was really cool. Just really talking to them in New Jersey. Yeah, that was probably far the most memorable one. And since it was a municipality, we had to go through a lot of red tape to get there, which is a big curve, like learning experience and curveball, really.
Mhm. What advice do you have for wannabe entrepreneurs?
It takes so much longer than you expect and a lot more effort than you really are probably willing to put in at first. And so you quit and then you keep going and then you just keep going and going and going till you eventually get to where you want to be. I think setting expectations instead of wants is a really big thing, mostly because of mindset. So I could just be talking nonsense, right? But I do set expectations for myself and where I expect to be by a certain period and giving myself the grace period to know that if I don't get there, it's okay. But I have higher ambitions than what I would want to happen. Since if I want that to happen, I don't necessarily, it's kind of like a far away thing. If I expect that's going to happen, maybe my mindset's a little bit better and I prepare more for it since I kind of expect something to happen instead of like wishing on a star, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so basically things will take longer, but set your goals high and then
Yeah, yeah. I
be
mean, there's no point
persistent.
in setting like small goals that you know are achievable, right? So
Right.
if you know exactly how you're going to achieve it in the first place, that's not really stretching yourself and you're not gonna really exceed any expectations there. But if you set something that's kind of high, that kind of makes you sick to think about. You don't know how you're going to get there and you kind of freak out.
Mhm.
I think that's a pretty good place to start.
Yeah, interesting. What got you interested in wellness in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the company that I work for, we started off in like the retirement space. So my dad is a teacher, so we started off with the retirement space. We help anybody, but it was mostly with teachers. My dad's been a teacher for longer than I've been alive, so really helping him understand like pensions and understanding when he can retire and things like that. That was really cool to me. So I got into the space with that. And under that company, we also have a wellness program. And I figured I can help people on a much broader scale than people one on one and directly. So that was kind of why I pivoted that way.
So what do you need to scale now?
It's a great question. What I really need to scale now is hmm, obviously clientele, but mostly I think. in this space is going to be personal relationships. So
Mm.
a lot of people have vendors that they like that they've been with for years. And so meeting with these people and getting them to like me, which I think I'm a likable person. So I don't think it'll be necessarily that difficult, but getting them to like me and know that we offer the right thing, uh, or a service that's actually the proof is in the pudding, that people actually do enjoy it and getting out there more. Since we just started last year, I think that's going to be the most important thing to really scale, since a lot of these are, a lot of people just go with what they know, right? And so going with something that is a little bit newer and a little bit more fresh, especially with people you don't necessarily feel as comfortable with, I think that's going to be building that familiarity, and also talking with a lot more people is just going to help out a lot. So that's why I do a lot. And that's why I'm doing these podcasts, so that I can get on as many as possible and really get our name out there and talk to a lot of people, hopefully through this process.
Yeah, building that initial trust is tough.
It's always tough. Yeah, especially if you have different types of methods. So I do cold emailing, cold calling. I
Mm.
hate. So I probably will do that eventually and hopefully phase that out to somebody else that I can hire. That's the end goal with that. LinkedIn has been by far the most personal touch, since I post content on there and you can see my face. And so it's a lot easier really to connect with somebody like that, as opposed to a cold call. They're randomly calling you out the blue, or cold emailing. Obviously, in-person meetings are great. So they have a couple of different programs and webinars and shows that you can really go to. So I've gone to a Coupa HR meeting, which is, or I think it's Coupa HR, which is essentially just people in higher education, so colleges and private institutions and their HR reps. So talking with them has been really helpful as well, really just getting the word out there. This year, I'm going to be going to a lot more government programs and government forums and a lot of those types of student body works. So that was something that was new that we didn't realize going into it, that it's a lot more personal, personalized than what we were expecting, and what we were doing beforehand wasn't really as personal. It wasn't as difficult to do. But yeah, getting in front of a lot of the decision makers and having a connection with them in the first place is definitely priority number one to scale.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a challenge starting out. I mean, you sounds like you've made a lot of progress in just 1 year. Have you heard of Alex Hormozy?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because his 100 Million Leads book recently came out. It sounds like exactly what you're looking for because he goes over specifically like cold email, cold calling, networking, all of that.
Yeah, I am a part of a group called Client Ascension, and
Uh-huh.
so they're big into cold email and cold calling, or
Mm.
yeah, cold email, cold calling. It's essentially a coaching program. I yeah, I know the founders over there as well. So I do cold email. Now I paused my campaign since it's the first, so nobody's
Mhm.
in office, especially in colleges. They're out until like the 15th. I think they said they were coming back, but I'll still start up campaigns anyway. Yeah, but yeah, cold emailing by far is a lot broader. It's a lot easier to talk to people that are out of the state, right? So for me, I can't necessarily travel to like Florida or something like that, just off rip, right? So talking with them over LinkedIn or cold emailing is by far the easiest way to talk to those types of people outside of the DMV area, essentially.
Mhm. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Hermosi's cool. I like him.
yeah. Um, are there any other like businesses or pieces of your business you want to expand into in the future? Like, what does your dream business look like?
Yeah, my dream business, honestly, is to buy up other businesses that would then install these programs. So it's a lot easier for the back end. So wellness programs have multiple fronts, but in order to really get these processes approved, you need to talk to HR reps and also the financial people there. So, like a lot of accountants, or maybe not a lot of accountants, but CFOs, CPAs, these types of people. And so, hopefully 3 to 4, maybe 5 years from now, I will buy up like 4 or 5 of them, from HR consulting firms and accounting consultants, or just accounting firms just in general. And so buy them up and incentivize them to encourage, since you can't obviously mandate installation or anything, but encourage them and incentivize them with bonuses and things like that in order to broaden it as quick as possible, I feel like that would be a lot easier. So if a accounting firm has like 40 clients or something like that, I can buy them out, at least a portion of the business, and incentivize the workers and the other accountants if this product you think would be a good fit and it would save them money because of tax incentives. You should offer this and you'll get a piece of that as well. So I think that's what that looks like really in 4 to 5 years. I don't think I'm going to be I think I would be phased out of it pretty much as possible, which would be nice. And then ultimately selling the business as well. It's a major goal for me.
Interesting. It sounds like you could already do partnerships with accounting firms and like advisory
Yeah,
firms, since that's really their goal, right? Is save the client's money. So if your programs
yeah,
can save the client's money, that's a no-brainer.
exactly. The the I guess it is an issue. The issue right now, as of right now, is the trust factor. So since we've only been doing this for a year and have a limited amount of clients, compared to some of the other firms that they do partnerships with, it's a little bit harder to get in front of the door. But I'm thinking with this next year and the following, as we get bigger and more clientele and more case studies and things of that nature, it's going to be a lot easier to do partnerships and then ultimately um, figuring out some sort of partnership to buy them out or something like that. So yeah, that's definitely something that we are working on now, or me specifically, I guess. I'm working on now.
Okay, that makes sense. I have some questions for you on like a more personal, individual
Yeah.
note, like just self-development stuff. Um, I guess, yeah, what are the major issues you see with the world right now for young men?
Major issues right now for
Like, what are their struggles? What were your struggles?
yeah, in entrepreneurship, like specifically.
Just in life. I mean, it could be business, it could be career, it could be relationships, whatever it might be. Could be
Sure.
health.
Uh, I would honestly just say the biggest one is probably isolation. So I
Hmm.
don't know how many people probably deal with that, but I'm assuming I know I'm not the only one. So I can really only speak from somebody who has had a lot of jobs as well as being an entrepreneur, but also in the entrepreneurial space. If you don't really have like programs or anything like that, it can feel really lonely for like a decent stretch. Even if you're talking to people every day, you may not see them. And so it can be really isolating. And I don't think I know I don't do a good enough job of expressing that to other people, right? So putting that out there, I know a lot of other men don't do that as well. So I feel like isolation is by far the biggest thing. Even if you're in a room full of people, you can still feel like nobody really understands what you're going through, especially if you have people constantly questioning what you're doing and why you're doing it. It can also make you question that as well if you're not having the success that you think you should have had by now, if that makes sense. So that's when you get into your own head and then you start making bad decisions and quick decisions and things that really ultimately lead you to your failures because you got in your own head by allowing other people in there. But that stems from the isolation factor and the fact that most people aren't doing what you're doing in the first place. How many people do you know? Well, it's probably a little bit different from you since you do podcasts. How many other people outside of like the podcasting world in like your day-to-day life actually do podcasts or entrepreneurial things for you specifically?
Not many. Not many.
Right. So
Yeah.
it can be a little bit tough since you know that this is what you want to do and this is how you want to grow and this is for your own world. But if a lot of people, especially family, really comes at you randomly, right? Just starts asking questions about what you're doing, it can feel really isolating at times. So I
Mhm.
think that's probably the biggest thing, especially as a young guy, because you want to take over the world as soon as possible. And that's just not necessarily how it works.
Mhm. Who's been the most supportive of your endeavors?
By far my brother.
Mhm.
So he's also an actor, so I feel like that's probably easier, right? If you if you also don't have a traditional path, it's easier to have people that don't follow traditional paths. So my parents are also been supportive as well. It took a lot longer though than my brother was essentially just right away. My parents have been helpful towards the last year or so as they realize it's kind of not a fluke and that this is actually I don't know why. Maybe I'm just such a glutton for punishment and disappointment, but entrepreneurship is the route that I like to go down. And so I think when they came to terms with that, it was a lot easier for them to support them.
Cool. I'm glad. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm. So other than meeting, people who run these government programs or are linked to them, who do you think are the kind of people you'd want to be talking with or working with to grow this business?
Yeah. Uh, I don't think companies that have big employee doubts or people or have real issues with their employees that are looking for a savior to come in should be working with any wellness program. I feel like you need to fix that from a manager perspective down. So I feel like the companies that we work with or that we would love to work with are people that are looking to help supplement an issue in the business, not fix the business. So
Mm,
companies that have hundreds or thousands of employees are perfectly fine. They already have a structure typically in place, and they may need help just hiring or keeping some top end talent that they have. And maybe this is a thing, since it helps their families as well, that other places aren't offering, even if those other places may offer a little bit more money. Right. But businesses that are growing rapidly, that have no structure in place and are kind of looking for something since they feel like they need something, they tend to be the biggest headache in the first place because they have really any expectations. So going back, I guess, to what I was saying before, we set goals and we have expectations even for our clients as well. Like, this is what has typically happened working with these things. What do you want, and how can we somewhere kind of meet in the middle so that we know exactly what to expect a year or two from now into this partnership, right? So if you come in and you think that we're going to be saving your business with tax savings, and also no employee's ever going to want to leave again, that's not who we help. That doesn't really make any sense either. But yeah, setting the right expectations and having people that don't need us but want us are probably the best way to put it for those types of people. And so that typically lands the bigger types of people and types of companies, even though it does take a lot longer than the smaller ones would.
can you walk me through like your typical journey, like acquiring a client, talking with them, installing these programs, and then maintaining them? What does that look like from start to sort of ongoing?
Yeah, yeah. From start, let's just say LinkedIn. So I reach out, I connect with somebody over on LinkedIn, and let's say they are the HR rep for a county public school over here, a small county public school. And so what I would typically do is ask if they have a wellness program in general. They might say yes, they might say no. Okay, great. And so I go into the like home office or the central office essentially and ask to meet with this person that I just connected with over on LinkedIn or via email or however, if they showed any slight interest, right, at all, if they just didn't completely tell me to go away. So going in there, meeting them face to face, like I said, that's probably the most important thing so that they can at least put a face to a name and I'm not just some bot that is connected with them and just told them about my service. So going in there, talking with them, and really figuring out if there are any interest. Sometimes it's just not the right time. So they do their benefits sometimes in June. Sometimes they're looking in January now. Other times it's just later on in the year or October. So it doesn't really make any sense for them to do it right now, even though they might be interested later on down the road. So really just getting a face to face and like a 2 to 3 minute conversation, just wanting to introduce myself goes a really long way. So let's say after that, we do schedule a time and schedule a meeting. I bring in my president, Larry Daniels, the president of our company, essentially, since he has a background in law and also is a lawyer. So it's a lot easier for him just to go over the tax code implications as well and really what to expect with this program. So once we do that, we have our meeting. That can either be in person or over call. Over like Zoom or something like this, it typically takes two meetings to really dive into everything. But if you're in person, it's a lot easier just to talk to somebody and have them ask questions off rip. So if we do it in person, it really only takes one meeting. If we do it over the phone or something like that, it takes two. After that, after let's say the second meeting, we will then ask for them to sign over a form so that we can fill out all the payroll information for them, and so we can see who's really qualified for this account. That's after setting expectations and figuring out what their goals really are for this program, if it's the tap implications, if their people really want coaches and stuff like that. And so we figure out exactly who would be qualified for this. We say however many there are, they sign over, okay, that sounds good, let's set them up. And so that takes about, once they sign that over, we set the date for the first day. So let's say you sign the paper now, we set it for the first of the following month, just so that people have time and stuff like that. So it will be for February 1st up until March 1st. You have to give 30 days in order for people to opt out of the program in case it seemed cool at first, but they don't necessarily want to commit a long term to it or anything like that. So after March 1st, that's when everything is set for the next year, essentially, and people are committed to the program. We have a 90% participation rate. So most people that actually do it, that we sign up or qualified for, do keep the program because it's relatively easy. I mean, if you really want to, you can really just call up a coach if you really want to and just talk to them as quickly as possible. If you just have something on your mind, if you have a new job, if your kids are stressing you out, right? Or if you wanted to start a new diet, didn't really know where to start, but this program you thought sounded okay, and at least you can start there as well. So all in all, it could take anywhere from the quickest to being talked to and like set up like 40-ish days all the way up to months and months, just depending on how big the company is. So that's essentially a breakdown of what I do. I try and connect with them at first, see if they're interested, and if I can go in person, I will go in person, just so that they can put a face to my name, and then we kind of set a meeting from there.
Cool. And what are some of your personal wellness habits that you'd recommend for people who are watching?
That's a good question. I was awful at exercising, like really, really bad, because I would do it for like 2 months straight. You couldn't tell me anything, and then I would hurt myself, or not even hurt myself, probably fatigue myself, and so I'd get like a little like neck strain every
Mhm.
other time or something like that, and so I would just stop for like 8 months, and then I'm like, I got to get back on this, right? So I feel like the best thing is by far consistency and just going higher and higher, whatever that really looks like for you. So it doesn't have to be intense exercise. Mine actually isn't anymore because my doctor told me to stop doing that since I was hurting myself. And so, yeah, the most important thing I do now is honestly just walk. So I walk for like 25 to 30 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. And that seems to do the same thing that exercising like 30 minutes intensely for 4 times a week the last couple of years was doing. It's actually working a little bit better for me. Also, I guess I meditate. I don't really know what I call it, but I do wind down at the end of every night. I have the Calm app for like 10 minutes. I just put on Tamara Levitt and she just talks and I just kind of sit there in silence. And so I guess that is meditating, right? And that's essentially what I do pretty much every day. Those are the two things that I do the best. I wish I told you I had New Year's resolutions to eat healthier or something like that, but that's not true. I didn't even think to do that. Those are the two, though, that I do is probably exercise and then meditating at the end.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's good advice for people as well, exercising and meditating. And you had a good point in there, which is make the exercise suit your own life, right? Don't try to force something
Yeah.
in that doesn't fit. Do what works for you, whether it's walking, biking, swimming, whatever, right?
Yeah, I was doing following all those Hormozy bros, and so they were just getting ripped, and I'm like, I got to get this on, right? And so I'm eating protein shakes that I hate, and eating chicken every night. It was awful, but didn't really work out anyway. This is probably the best one for me.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess that kind of brings us back to what you were discussing about, family pressure and people trying to change you. So how do you sort of stay true to yourself and withstand the pressure from outside while also remaining connected and not isolated? Because that's a tough balance to hold.
It is, yeah. Finding other people somewhere in your life that you can talk to consistently that has maybe not done what you've done, but is successful in their own right, that's older than you, I think is by far one of the biggest things that you can do. So I have, God knows how many mentors now. I'll just say two that I talk to on a regular basis that are in their, what are they now? Like in their 50s or something like that, but they've ran multiple successful businesses. They might be running one now. One is running one now.
Mhm.
And so honestly, at first I worked for them in one aspect. So I was cold calling for like wholesaling houses, but I hated that was when I realized I hated cold calling because I felt like I was always ruining somebody's day, right? And just asking for something with nothing in return. Um, yeah, but I still talk with him on a pretty consistent basis as well, and just asking them about some of their struggles and telling them and being open with them as much as possible about what you're really dealing with. Sometimes they're able to help, and sometimes they just tell you, yeah, that's kind of part of it. You just kind of keep moving. You're like, okay. And then it helps you feel not as alone, especially if they say they still struggle with that now and they're successful in their own right. And you're like, oh, I can do this too. So finding people that are older than you by far that are successful in this, not necessarily in the space. If it does work out in that space, then yeah, for sure, talk to those people as well. But just finding people successful in their own right that are older helps. You can also find people that are successful around your age, if they're cool. I feel like sometimes though they're around your age and you're not as successful, you kind of start to feel like you're not doing well, right? It's a weird thing that if, especially if they're younger than you, if they're since I'm 22, I guess that's young in most people's aspect. But if there's like a 21-year-old that's doing numbers out there that I kind of wanted to do, especially with my YouTube channel, it really panned out. Um, then it kind of feels like I don't know what I'm doing, right? I don't know why I'm doing this still. If I haven't done it by 22, I guess I'm a failure all of a sudden. So I feel like finding somebody that's older that says, yeah, I didn't find my success until like the last 3 years or something like that, it's a lot easier and helps you a lot more.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you'll probably end up being a mentor for somebody in the future, right? So it's kind of a cycle.
Yeah, I hope so. That would be cool.
Yeah. Tell me a bit more about your creative endeavors in the past, like your YouTube channel and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So was pretty good at basketball, I guess, at some point. And so I started hating it like really, really badly. And so one day I was just randomly home from school because I was sick. And so I started looking up YouTube videos, and somehow I found like Madden YouTubers, like people who would play Madden online.
Mhm.
The first person I watched was like Cookie Boy and Toke. And so I was like, I can do this. This seems fun. And so I decided to quit basketball pretty abruptly, actually, and say I'm not playing this again, and started my own YouTube channel called Super Bob 35. And so I thought, honestly, it was going to take maybe 6 months for me to be able to get like a coin sponsor and possibly some other partnerships. And that didn't work out for like 2 years. I got up to 100 subscribers, which is pretty cool for most people, especially pre-shorts or anything like that. So this is all long-form video type stuff, and had to figure out my own editing and things like that. So once I started that, I kind of quit that also because I then started to hate Madden, and I haven't played it in like 3 years because it's just not that fun of a game to play anymore. And so after I stopped my YouTube channel in 2021, I started growing like a Twitter account and found Money Twitter. That was when I found the people that run Client Ascension now with Daniel and Andre and Christian and stuff like that, and found out about Hormozy and found out about like trading, the stock market and stuff like that. So I grew that Twitter channel to be it's 4NR prod. I don't know why. I think it's for no reason that I started that. So I said 4NR just sounds cool. Uh, I grew that like 800 followers in like 3 months, 3.5 months, or something like that. I had a course randomly at 19 that said how to get $1 richer a day or something like that. That was able to that sold out pre-order, which is cool. And that was in 2021. And so after that, I started getting into that was when I realized that I actually do want to start a business and started to want to do something outside of, I guess, YouTube, since that was the only way that I thought I could do it beforehand. And that was when I got into cold calling. And also I started doing looms for people for their businesses and stuff like that. And none of those really worked out like at all, actually. And I kind of, in the beginning, at the end of last year, in the beginning of 2023, that was when I started getting into retirement planning for people, for teachers and stuff like that. And that was kind of how I fell down this path. And so been, I guess, a long time coming. I guess I've probably done things in between those things that I just am not thinking of right now. But those are by far the biggest things. Starting the YouTube channel for years, and then growing the Twitter brand is by far how I got to where I am now. Just meeting those types of people, because
Mhm.
everybody wants to start an e-com store too, and so did I. And so I bought like 400 shirts pre-order for no reason, no design, no nothing, and I just started handing them out at like colleges that my friends go to, and did nothing with that. Nothing, like absolutely nothing at the end of last year. But I'm still going to start that brand at some point, I assume, probably when I'm done with this.
Did you go to college?
No.
No.
No, I planned on it. I graduated in 2020. And so the first year they didn't have anybody on campus because of COVID. And so I'm like, I'm not going to go online for college. That makes no sense. And so I deferred for the second year or for the first year. And so the second year came around and they weren't going to give us as much financial aid as they had said the previous year that they were going to give us. And so like I was going to have to start taking out loans. And I didn't even really know if I wanted to go then still because I had started with the business and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't really think I need to do this if I kind of know what path I'm going to go down in the first place. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't go to college either.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I deferred again, I guess, and just never went.
Mhm.
So I don't think I'm still in the system or anything over there. Okay. How long? How old are you?
I'm 28.
28. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Was there a reason
Um,
you didn't go, or you just didn't want to? Really?
I just didn't enjoy high school, and college didn't seem like it would be much better. And I'm pretty glad because, like, I think I learned a lot just working. I was interested in real
You
estate.
do.
Yeah, so I got into that.
Okay. What type of real estate?
Um, I ended up doing land assembly. So my first boss was basically he would talk to multiple homeowners who were neighbors, and he would convince them to all sell together to the same developer, and then that guy would apply to like build apartments or townhouses, and he would raise them all down basically. And then I got into commercial real estate and leasing and stuff. But yeah, now
Okay.
I'm completely out of real estate.
I was about to say, how'd that like parlay into
Yeah, so
podcasting?
I mean, I started this podcast kind of recently because I started playing an MMO and I was talking to
Okay.
people online and I realized I was just interviewing them for fun. And slowly that made me realize, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. So then I pivoted. Um, Before that, yeah, I was working all sorts of jobs. And I also have a startup that's working on like making a PC video game for Steam. So
Cool.
that's going to be interesting whenever it comes out. Should be later this year.
Okay. Yeah. What type of game?
Um, it's kind of hard to describe, but I have a friend who's been in game design for 20 years, so he's leading that project, and we've now got like 10 people working on it. But basically, the concept is imagine a future where Google, Facebook, and Twitter, all of these companies, Meta, they've kind of consolidated their data, and there's one mega corporation that has all the data, and they've created this like search engine where you can basically go in, like imagine you have a grandkid, and they type in, oh,
Hmm.
what did my grandfather Bryce do for fun when he was a kid? And then this engine will actually go into like old data and scrape it and then go like, oh, he played Madden, he had a YouTube channel and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And the idea
Okay.
is that, yeah, you're playing as this duo, this AI duo that is actually going into old systems. So you can imagine that this almost platformer where you're on old desktops like Windows
Hmm.
95 and stuff, and then you might run into the security systems, the antivirus, the Norton and Avast and all that,
Yeah.
and then you have to play mini games to get out. So yeah, that's the general idea.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I'll reach back out to you then in a couple months to see how that's going. But,
Yeah.
yeah, doing a lot of jobs though, like you were saying before, that I think speeds up your process so quickly. Realizing that this is gonna sound harsh, but realizing that most people don't care about you like at all is great for development, right? So as soon as you can do that, I think that's probably the best case scenario. So I've been working since I guess I was like 14 because I was cutting yards and stuff like that since my parents said they would stop paying for my video games, and that was when I wanted to start my YouTube channel. So I kind of had to figure out how to do that. So I've had a job for sure since I was like 15, and so doing a lot of work and realizing that people really don't care about you. They really care about their bottom line, which makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's going to help you a lot more than necessarily like not wasting 4 years, because I don't think college is a waste actually for most people, but waiting 4 years and doing nothing and then kind of coming out and then waiting a couple more years and you're just not doing really anything because you don't necessarily know what to do. I feel like if you don't go, but you have multiple jobs, even if you have jobs while going to college, makes a lot of sense. But getting out in like the actual workforce and realizing that people do kind of suck sometimes and that you're going to have really bad days a lot of the time, making a lot of mistakes and stuff like that is actually pretty cool and helps out a lot. So, yeah, I worked at Best Buy and Old Navy and local places just in Baltimore in general. And so Best Buy and Old Navy really helped you realize they don't care at all, really, about what's going on. Like my car broke down the Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, since I worked like the Thanksgiving shift or whatever in that morning. And so they just told me that I had to come in because you weren't allowed not to. So I kind of had to run to work, which is kind of funny. But yeah, that's when it really hit me that they don't care about you. So you're gonna kind of have to just go out on your own in the first place in any way and kind of learn these things. So like, yeah, I think working a lot of jobs really does help that and helps you realize that you're gonna have to do a lot more things on your own, and nobody's gonna save you. Because like I said, my dad's been teaching for over 20 years, and he had no idea when he could retire. He could retire in like 2 years, but he didn't know that. He thought he had to retire in like 7 or 8, and so nobody's going to teach you these things. You're going to have to go out on your own and figure them out. And that's regardless if you have a steady job or if you don't, you're just kind of going to have to figure it out. So I think going in the workforce by far helps you learn a lot of those life lessons early on.
Yeah, I think Alex Hormozy has this quote that's like, the work works on you more than you work on it.
That's a good quote. Yeah.
Yeah. So
For
basically,
sure.
the more varied the work you do, yeah, the more you'll learn and the more you'll change as a person and so on. So it makes sense.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What's up?
I just wanted to ask you, do you know anyone else I could interview? Because I've actually been having trouble finding guests. So it's kind of really cool that you just came along and you were like, yeah, let's do it.
Wow. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else you can interview? Yeah, I think I could probably find 2 to 3 people
Nice.
for you. Yeah, I'll ask around. I'll ask people in the group and stuff like that. And yeah, I think so for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, and in terms of what you're doing, I think it's really cool. And what would it look like once you're, say, the business doesn't need you day to day, it might need you like once or twice a week. What would you ideally be working on? Let's say you could work on anything, right? You could revive your YouTube channel, you could do something else. What would it be?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's been a big thing of mine that I have no idea. So I also am into the stock market. So from Twitter, I actually found one of my best friends. And he is a stock trader and he's really good at what he does. So I kind of still do that on the side. So I'm assuming that's probably it. But that only takes up until about maybe 11 a.m. at the latest in the morning. So it would be the back half of the day that I have nothing going on. So I feel like to fill that up, I would really need to get back into a sport and like start playing it, get into a relationship and have children, or just not do anything and kind of feel like I'm not doing anything and hit a rock bottom and find my way out. Those really feel like the top 3 options for me. I'm not sure which one that's gonna hit though. So I like to think I do a lot of different things because I do, but I don't know what that looks like 5 years from now at all in like the back half of my day, especially if things, it could be earlier. I guess it could be in like 2 years, right? Where the business doesn't really need me at all to
Mhm.
run. And then I'm kind of really screwed. So I'll really have to figure out something that I'm going to have to do with my life. But I don't have an answer for that. Those are the top 3 options though. So
I think that
yeah.
is like the unique role that the CEO or founder kind of fulfills, which is that they're replacing themselves as quickly as possible, but they're always coming up with new ways to add value for the business,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the thing that they do that no one else can do, which is keep being creative in that sense.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's by far the best thing I have is my creativity. I don't think it's consistency. I don't think I have the strong. I know I don't have the strongest work ethic, but I think I've built on those things enough to where once things get actually settled, that we can expand a lot more than a lot of people would really think to. Mostly just because I keep thinking about different things to do in the first place. But yeah, what would you wanted to, let's say the podcast takes off and you're one of the most famous podcasters in the world. I don't really know any of those people, but let's say you or at least you have what you want out of life with podcasting. What else would you do with your time since you wouldn't necessarily have to do it that often?
The thing is, this isn't something I have to do, right? It's something I like to do. So like there was a time period where I was live streaming these interviews and I was doing one a day for like 2 months straight. And I think that was actually the best period of my life. So I
Okay.
think because I would like to get to the point where I don't have a shortage of guests. Because then I think my
Yeah.
life would be like doing one of these every day, right? And really the struggle for me has been like learning thumbnail design and video editing and a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff, figuring out YouTube titles, things like that. Like it turns out those are really important, way more important than I thought. And now I'm
Extremely.
slowly starting to
Yeah.
like hire out. So like I found a thumbnail designer. This was really cool. I had like a 2% click through rate on my thumbnail. And then he made a thumbnail and it had an 11% click through rate. So I was like,
Okay.
okay, great. This guy's 5 times better than me. I'll just pay him to do it. Um, so yeah, I think ultimately I want to find a way to be able to do this every day and make it sustainable. Because right now I'm funding it all through my savings, so it's not
Hmm.
sustainable. So yeah, eventually I'd like it to be self-sustaining. And then ideally I can interview some really cool people like Alex Hormozy, Andrew Huberman, Jordan Peterson, all those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I'll reach out to all the people that I know actually that are looking for you. So whenever this goes up, I think it'll be a lot easier to have proof of concept
You
that
can
you
link it to
actually
them.
do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, once that I'll ask beforehand, but once that happens, I feel like there's gonna be a lot more people that I actually know that would be interested,
Mhm.
which would make a lot.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. So before we close out, any final thoughts? Anything you want to share?
No. If you're watching this and this fits you, this wellness program, or anything, or you know anybody who might be of use or of interest, just hit me up. Probably on LinkedIn is probably the easiest. So just Bryce Milton at Alto Workplace Benefits, and you'll see me out there. Yeah, or my YouTube channel as well. It's the same at. So yeah, you can find me either of those places. It's a lot easier. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thanks, Bryce. It's been great having you on.
Yeah, no problem. It's nice to meet you too. Honestly, thank you.
Yeah, it was great to meet you. All right. See you.
Bye.